Termites eat wood. That is their thing. It's pretty much their entire deal. So if you were to guess which organism might be counted on to restore a plot of destroyed rainforest, termites might not be the first thing that comes up. But what if an organism famous for destroying wood is actually the thing that helps a baby rainforest grow big and strong? It's a weird planet. And one group of Australian researchers say these little wood-eating insects are probably exactly what's needed to revitalize a wrecked rainforest. Rainforest restoration is more complex than you'd think, partly because of a concept called succession. The idea of ecological succession assumes that biological communities replace each other over time, and that each stage creates the conditions needed for the next community to thrive. Conventional ecological wisdom says that the process of succession eventually pauses once the community has reached a climax stage, the forest's final form, where it remains until there is a disturbance and the process of succession starts over. So even though it seems as if forest restoration would be as easy as plunking down some baby trees and waiting a few years to enjoy a little slice of fern gully, the process is actually a bit more like baking. Just like a cake isn't just a pile of flour, the successional stages of an ecosystem need a bunch of ingredients to come together. Ingredients like species, temperature, and time. And termites have a place in the rainforest too, but one that we need to understand. Your cake needs baking powder to rise, but you definitely don't want it to taste like baking powder. So it's possible that the wrong amount of it could make or break your cake. And the same might go for termites. That is to say, termites could make or break rainforest restoration, not a cake. A cake they would definitely ruin. Anyway, an Australian research group began to think about the part termites play in the succession of rainforest communities. Decomposers like termites and mushrooms are vitally important to the health of a mature rainforest because they recycle carbon and unlock nutrients like nitrogen from dead plants, allowing them to be used by new ones. But generally speaking, a rainforest rehab starting kit doesn't come with a little box of termites. The researchers wondered if or when, during the many-step succession process required to transform a piece of cleared land into a mature rainforest, termites would wander back in to do their job. So they monitored two different types of decomposers, termites and mushrooms, in Australian replanted forests in different successional stages. Based on similar experiments in South America, they expected the termites to waddle back in on their own, possibly even faster than the mushrooms started breaking down old wood and leaf litter. But it turns out that Australia is built different. Shocker. The experiment involved placing blocks of wood in restored rainforests of various ages, and they returned regularly for 4 years to see how long it was taking the wood blocks to decay, and whether the blocks had been discovered by mushrooms, termites, or both. The outcome was something of a surprise. Turns out the Australian termites didn't spring into action like the team thought they would, whereas the fungi got right back to work and returned to their old growth forest decay rate very quickly. And this is why you can go on Etsy and find hundreds of mushroom-themed stickers, t-shirts, and cross-stitch pillows that say "you cannot kill me in a way that matters." With the termites, the experiment found that they eventually straggled back into the reforested sites to munch on the wood blocks, but they didn't show up in great numbers or very quickly. Which isn't all that surprising, given that termite colonies in Australia can take 25 years to mature. The researchers suggested they would eventually build a full head of steam in terms of population size and biomass and get back to termite business as usual. But what it means for rainforest restoration is that Australian forest regeneration will probably have lower rates of termite-driven decay than sites on other continents, which may mean carbon and nutrients return to the soil more slowly. The research team suggests that maybe we need to be thinking about termite transplants from old-growth rainforests into younger forests. Decomposers are necessary for nutrient cycling, and the faster that gets going, the better. Tropical rainforests are important because they house around half of Earth's plant and animal species, drive weather patterns all over the globe, and act as the lungs of the planet by making a bunch of oxygen and cleaning the air. They also act as carbon sinks, locking up huge amounts of atmospheric carbon dioxide. dioxide. In doing so, forests are essential for regulating the global climate. Also, the plants in a forest hold on to a bunch of nitrogen that needs to be unlocked by decomposers in order for it to be used by the next generation of plants. So, the part termites play in the life and growth of a rainforest is very complex, and in order to restore these forests, we need to understand a bit more about their place in them. Unfortunately, we know so little about termites. We know they produce methane, a greenhouse gas we don't really want any more of, but also they might be locking up giant amounts of carbon in their nests. So where they fall on the climate friendliness spectrum, we're not totally sure. Plus, some species have a special relationship to nitrogen-fixing bacteria, which provide the type of nitrogen plants need to grow. They're also very tasty to a lot of critters higher up in the food web, so we really should get on understanding termites a bit better, because it's possible they would also lure other rainforest species like lizards and sugar gliders back into the restoration site. The point is, rainforest restoration is hard, but at the end of the day, sometimes building a rainforest requires adding in a little bit of something that's going to tear the rainforest down.